Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the internet's #1 success podcast, Into the Mind, where we break down and analyze the characteristics, strategies, and stories of successful entrepreneurs, investors, and high achievers so that together we can learn from their mistakes, be inspired by their victories, and replicate their formulas for success. I'm your host, Marlon Johnson, former parkour athlete turned real estate investor and entrepreneur, and I'm on a mission to become a multi-millionaire before 30 so that I can teach others how to do the same. And today I'm happy to have my friend on, Ven. Now, what's interesting about Ven is we met about a year ago through our same mentorship program. And when we both met, we were both at the beginning of our entrepreneur career. We were getting started, figuring things out. And as we've gone on the journey and we've reconnected at different points, I was like, holy crap, dude, you've been moving and grooving. You've been getting some work done and you've made a lot of progress since the last time we spoke. So I wanted us to get connected, come back on to the show today and really talk about not just the progress that you've made in entrepreneurship, but also just in life, like where you're at in life. Really, I want to dive into the lessons that you've learned, some of the challenges that you face that people don't really see. Like we always see the highlight reels, but I also want to know, hey, what sort of obstacles have you had to overcome? And ultimately, I want you to speak a little bit as well about what you do in the short-term rental space and what people need to know about that. So, Ven, I'm excited to dive into your story, bro. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. I appreciate having me here. It's a blast. I'm super excited to do this with you.
Dude, 100%.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. I gotta say, like, big shout out, by the way. Like, for everyone that doesn't know, Ven low-key last week, last minute, came into my my group, my morning mindset coffee calls, 7 o'clock in the morning. You woke up for us, you provided everybody with value, speaking about what you do in Airbnb and just helping everyone out. So I appreciate you doing that last minute.
Of course.
Like everyone was stoked about that, man. So
awesome.
I want to know, right? Before real estate, I'm not even gonna say before entrepreneurship, but before real estate, what were you doing? What were you up to?
Long story, but the most recent thing that I was doing was I'm a full-time tattoo artist, and I still do that full-time.
Oh, you do tattoo,
been doing it. Yeah. I can tell. I wonder what gave it away. Just covered. I've been doing tattoos now for going on 7 years. I worked a traditional 9 to 5 for a very long period of my life, and I learned that I have trouble with authority. And I figured that I had to do my own thing and kind of fell into art. And entrepreneurship kind of followed because of tattooing. So it did go hand in hand, more or less. So yeah, I've been grinding it out for the last 6 to 7 years.
Dude, yep. I like that you said that, right? And it's funny because you just like spoke to a part of my soul, which I want to make sure that people don't gloss over, which was you recognized that from like going through like doing tattooing, right? You were chasing after something that you were into, right? There was like an intrinsic motivation.
Yes.
Like it was something that you were passionate about personally. And that road opened up later into entrepreneurship and just real estate, everything else. But it came from ultimately like essentially following your own authenticity.
Yes, completely. So it was a major jump to go from working a 9 to 5 for 10 years of my life and then deciding like I'm quitting and then trusting in my gut and building a career from nothing, literally nothing. I was poor. As entrepreneurs, we understand what it takes, the hard work and put into this to get through where we want to get to. But no, I was poor and it was rough, but it was the best decision I've ever made in my life, truthfully, and never look back.
I freaking love that, dude, because I think a lot of people, they're afraid of that moment, right? Of honestly, like
terrifying.
Yeah, it's like you're betting on yourself and then you don't have any evidence that it will work out. And ultimately, like you're getting ready to let go of the little things that you already do have to essentially have nothing. And that terrifies a lot of people. I know personally, it scared me as well. One of my biggest worries was losing what I believed I had.
And no, it's awful.
Yeah, like the stuff that you actually have, literally, it's already inside. Like you can't lose that stuff. Like the important stuff, you can't actually lose.
Nope, you can't. And that's one thing that I really learned about myself. And I think other entrepreneurs really figure that out when they get into this. When you really bet on yourself and actually bet on yourself, and eliminate all possibility of there being any other options. There's no plan B. There's just plan A. It will never fail. It may take a long time, and it's going to be rough, and it's going to be a very, very hard road, but that road will pay itself out, and it'll be the most beautifully paved road you ever put in front of you.
I freaking love that. So, you know what? I would love to do this, right? Because
sure,
we always look back, right? And we're able to look backwards in hindsight and say like, hey, you know, like it worked out. I made it through the rough patches. I am curious though, like that immediate transition, if you could take yourself mentally back to when you are like, all right, I'm about to quit. I'm about to leave the job. I'm going to pursue tattooing for the first time. And I'm really going to bet on me. In that moment, like take us back. What were you feeling then? Like what was like going through your mind in the moment of like entering, I call it the suck, entering into this.
Yeah. You got to embrace that suck too. You have to embrace that suck hard. I honestly, I'll never forget it. I will never forget. I learned, I just hated my job. I hated my manager at the time. And I just decided that staying was going to be more detrimental than taking the risk, truthfully. It was only going to get worse if I stayed in the position I was in. And I didn't know what else to do with myself. And I didn't want to do anything else with myself. I wanted to do what I loved. And at that time, it was tattooing. And I felt that was my freedom and that was my path forward. And when I realized that that was it, I had two options: stay or change it and move forward and make a difference. I didn't give myself any other choice to do anything but that. And I then kind of just took action and followed suit from that point forward. My parents helped me out a little bit. Barely anything at all. They're just small bills, like my phone bill for the month, so I could survive, and they fed me occasionally. But outside of that, I just hustled and I grinded, and I just took every tattoo and every opportunity I could to make $1 just to pay for my rent and whatever I could at the point in time. And it was just it's like climbing a ladder. You got to go every single run one at a time. You can't skip. You have to go through the muck. You have to go through the grime. You have to dig and dig and dig until you get through it.
Let me ask this, right? Because first off, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And there's like, I call it like this illusion, right? I was joking around. Keston and I were on the phone like yesterday, and we were jokingly talking about how we're always like looking for this way of like, oh, how do I escape the rat race? How do I escape the work? And then he and I were joking like, dude, there is no escaping the work. You just got to find the one, like the work that's worth doing, the one that you enjoy doing, and learn to love the process. You know,
that's the absolute truth. That's the absolute truth. There's no escape. You got to just choose what work sucks the least, and it doesn't actually suck because hard work is always there. It's never going to not be hard. You just have to enjoy it, so it's worthwhile.
Exactly, and that's like something that like I want to like get through to people, you know, because like that's why like I want to dive back in, like, and that's why I was asking you where you were in the moment of it. So as you were going through it, you're hustling, you're grinding, like the parents are helping you out just a little bit, but for the most part, you're on your own. You're really betting on yourself. What 100%. Did you start to learn through this process? Like what was like beginning to click that wasn't clicking before?
So as like we said, the biggest thing is that fear when you take that official first leap forward. You don't know what to expect. When you land on your feet, you don't have much to work with because you're just starting out. I think what really clicked for me was as time went on, and it didn't take that long. I don't think it typically does. If you really put your mind to it, things start to fall in place naturally. And if you're very open to that and not allowing yourself to look backwards, because Gary Vee said, can I swear on this?
Yeah, dude, of course, bro. That's
okay. As Gary Vee says, looking back fucks your neck up. It's the truth. If you don't look back and you keep looking forward, what I've noticed when it started happening was, as we all know in entrepreneurship, is compound interest. Things just start falling into place daily. It's the smallest little micro differences, but they will start adding up. And that built my confidence. It built my faith in what I was doing. You get one clientele and then they pass that on to the next person. Then it starts just reassuring you that you're doing something right because you are able to start paying your bills. Even if it's $50 a month, it's still something. You still got to figure out the rest of that, but it's still growing because tomorrow it'll be $75. The next day it'll be $100. It starts just to kind of just puzzle piece itself together very slowly. And then it really, 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 really starts to pick up. So
Dude,
Terrifying, but it works.
you know what? I love it though, because like I agree with you wholeheartedly. And there's this moment of it doesn't even matter how little it is, right? Like I'll share this with you, right? Where like you came in the other day to the morning mindset coffee, like you got to meet a little bit of that community and what we're doing there. And I was telling Maurice, because Maurice runs that with me, the very first day that we had somebody sign up, I was like, bro, we got our first person. Like, dude, we got our first. I was so crazy excited. And it was like, we made $1. We literally made $1.
$1.
And I like that $1 was basically like $1 million to me, because we made it. We worked on it. We created it. We brought into the world what we truly wanted, what we desired. And it just keeps over time, like building up more and more and more. And there's a power to being excited about every step, not just waiting for the final outcome.
Yep. That was the one thing that I really did my absolute best to focus on, is I think a lot of entrepreneurs have issues with, and I still struggle with that in real estate. So, I mean, this still rolls over to me too, but instead of focusing on the long-term, $1 million mentality, all that jazz, like you just said, it's that $1, and then getting excited for every single penny that follows suit, like the penny, the quarter, the dollar, like everything, every single time you get that little additional increase, that 1%, cherish it, cherish that to its core, and you'll never fail. It doesn't matter how bad the day gets, it'll always be a good day.
I love that, man. So you left your job, you got into tattooing, you start to hustle, and you start to build something for yourself there. So what did that look like over the course of the next 7 to 8 years? Like what did that build look like for you?
It took a long time. I mean, I had to get creative with my marketing. I had to get creative in how to get clientele. I worked in a handful of shops, and a lot of them weren't the greatest. I'm a very drama-free type of person, so I actually jumped out of a lot of shops because I couldn't deal with the toxicity. Just not my cup of tea. And I wanted to be surrounded by people that always wanted to grow and improve themselves and not be comfortable at where they're standing. So I just kept trying to find people that were on the same path and mentality wavelength as I was, and just continuously going up from there. I think I've been in 8 tattoo shops now, and I finally found the one I'm staying at. And if this one doesn't work out, I'm making my own. But it was just, like I said, constant hustle. And it took about, I'd say 2-ish, maybe 3-ish years until I finally hit my stride. And then I could kind of settle down and lay back and be like, all right, I don't have to work as hard. Things are just coming to me now. And that's the one other good thing about these types of businesses. And I'm sure you understand, and hoping the viewers do as well. If you do it, I found the sweet spot is the 2 to 3 year point in anything. And when you hit that mark, that's when things start to settle, and then things start to be attracted to you, because you've built your name and built your brand and built yourself out to the point that people know who you are and start bringing you things instead of you searching for them. So that's what I learned rapidly.
You know what? It's funny. Like, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's almost like there's a universal, like there's some like universal laws and universal principles that seem to just kick in, where like you're absolutely right. Like that 2 to 3 year mark is where we start to see traction. Because when I think back on my parkour career, it wasn't until around year 2 or 3 that things started really gaining that momentum. And like the momentum was at least noticeable to me and noticeable to others. And even as real estate, I'm starting to get into my 2 year mark, and I'm starting to watch as things are turning on with a little bit more ease, where now I'm at the place where I'm like, oh my gosh, I have more opportunities than I even know. I have to figure out how to handle coming in now, because I genuinely I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm flooded in opportunities, where a year ago I was like, where are the opportunities? They don't exist. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. And what I love is what you said. You were looking for an environment where the people that were surrounding you ultimately had like a growth mindset. And that makes a lot of sense, that if that's what you were looking for, that's why you continue to not only pursue your own personal passions, but then also enter into the world of entrepreneurship. Because I think that's one of the more common threads that connect us all, is anyone that steps into entrepreneurship has a growth mentality. Like, you don't stay in entrepreneurship without that mindset of, I need to continuously be improving.
You can't stay in this world without it. It's impossible. It genuinely is impossible. It's not that people won't I mean, people won't work with you because they don't want to deal with that. They don't want to
Yeah.
be around people without a growth mindset, and it's rightfully so. So it is what it is.
Dude, I wholeheartedly agree. So now I'm curious, right? So you're pursuing your passion, right? And by the way, dude, like I really like literally like we have different like paintings, but like I feel like we have the same story in the sense
Yes.
of like we painted two different pictures. You know, you are pursuing your passion, you're loving tattooing, it's starting to get easy, it's starting to get traction. Why then make a switch for real estate? Why start looking at real estate?
Very good question. So the real reason was COVID-19 hit, and we were shut down in the state of New York for 3 months. And then I got a real rude awakening that I can't make money without putting needle to skin. So I have to physically be present to make a dollar. And as a self-employed, entrepreneur in that sense, COVID hit, and the first book I read was Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I got the breakdown. I got the breakdown of, employee, self-employed, business, and investor. And I was like, I know what I'm doing. And I instantaneously just started looking for a hustle. And I tried a mix of things. I tried drop shipping. I tried affiliate marketing, and nothing stuck. And then I landed on wholesaling from a TikTok, and I got a proof of concept, and then creative financing took off from there. And it just, sky's the limit.
Let's go. All right. So real quick for the listeners who haven't read anything from Robert Kiyosaki, first off, shame on you. However, can you break down like that quadrant, like the cash flow quadrant is what he refers to it as? Because you just said like a golden nugget there where it's like, the self-employed to the business, like you had like a realization during the COVID time. So what was that all about? What was that realization exactly?
Like I just said, the realization was like, I've been in all categories now. I was an employee for 10 years. I was a pharmacy tech, then I became a self-employed. So I'm literally going through the steps. The realization was that as self-employed, you're working for yourself until the end of time, because if you don't work, you don't make money, period. There's nobody going to help you out. You have to constantly work until you're dead. As dramatic as that is. But it's the truth, unless you start doing something more financially responsible. I didn't want to be a businessman. I didn't have any interest in it. And then I just started getting into the real estate aspects and just investing per se. And then I kind of learned to love and fall in love with business as I understood it. And that's what the big change was. And that's the second side of the quadrant. And it really explains how owning a business and running a business, it really teaches you how to hire people to do the work for you and provide economy and value to them and give them opportunities, because not everybody thinks like we do.
Yep.
But we're there to give people the opportunity to provide that job and support their families and those things, because without us, they couldn't do that.
It's so true. It's funny, man. Like growing up, I used to not really look at like, I don't think many of us like grew up thinking like, I want to be a businessman. Like I want to own a business. However, as I've gotten older, I've come to see like, wow, business men and women are really they're the backbone of society, because 100%. They help point people in a direction and they help give stability to all of it. And I have such a deep appreciation now for all the successful businesses I see that have been around for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, where I'm like, that takes a lot of effort and so much stress on the shoulders of the individuals who put it together.
Yep. And that's the thing. As you said earlier, people only see the tip of the iceberg that's above water. They don't see what's underneath the ocean, which is 3/4 of the whole thing, right? People don't understand, like you just said, that was a golden nugget, in my opinion, how the stress and how much work and effort has to be put onto the shoulders of the people that are running these businesses to provide for everybody around us. And my mentality is 100% changed. I just have so much respect for it. Everywhere I go, I'm like, man, that guy's smart. I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, you don't get it. It just sucks,
Dude, 100%. So I love it. So you're chilling in COVID, the world shuts down. They tell you can't see people. It puts you in a position where you like for the first time realize like, oh my gosh, like I literally, if I can't go work, I can't make money. And like you almost find yourself like trapped. And before this, let me ask, before COVID shut down, did you feel like you were all right? Did it ever even occur to you?
I did. Right. I had no fears, no qualms, no issues. I thought I was golden for the rest of my life. And I'm like, I'm fine. I don't need to do anything. I'm going to just work and be cool. I'm doing my passion. I'm making good money. I'm great. Yeah.
You know,
I got slapped across the face when COVID hit me.
and I think most people have that feeling, right? And like we refer to it like sometimes as like the golden handcuff, where like they feel like they have security, not realizing like, hey, your security is only based on if things never change. Like if the game of musical chairs, as long as they never turn the music off, you're fine. However, history shows us at some point the music does always turn off. And now it does come back on, but at some point it does turn off. And when it turns back on, you might have already been booted out of the game.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. It doesn't matter when it turns on. It's just how prepared you were and what you do on the backside of it.
Exactly. So you, in the middle of this COVID now, you're like everybody else, like the rest of us, you're on Instagram, you're on TikTok, you're on YouTube, and you're finding other opportunities. You try out a few to drop shipping, things don't work. However, you can see the real estate, you see the wholesaling, you got the proof of concept, and it clicked. And you essentially decided to pursue real estate. So what has that journey been like since like stepping into real estate? Because I think I'm in the same boat as you, man. Like I tried a couple things before this, and then real estate was the one that I decided I'm burning the bridge on this. Like I'm burning the boats.
Like I said, the two other options that I really tried, I'm not a tech savvy kind of guy, but I could see that the benefit and the profits from those and how they worked, and e-commerce was very well. It was taken off really well, and I could see how that was going to be valuable. I tried it. I'm not techie. I draw for a living for a reason. But I saw a wholesale TikTok video, and one of our fellow sub-2 students from Houston was filming it. And I didn't know her at the time, but she was the first person to give the whole blueprint start to finish of how wholesaling worked for free. There was no like, hey, follow my course or pay $5,000 and join my mentorship type deal. It was just, when we're studying these things, you see it over and over and over again. And people are like, hey, join my course. You get to pay this or you get to do that. Hers was legit. And I just picked it up. I'm like, wow, she's actually giving me the details. I messaged her and I just said, hey, what's the gist? What do I do? How do I start? She gave me a quick breakdown. 3 weeks, I locked up my first contract from a word of mouth and I sold it in 2.
Let's go. What?
Yeah, dude. Unicorn lay down deal. I made $17,000.
Get the hell out of here, dude.
That ass. Proof of concept. And then it got hard because I didn't get enough deals closed until April.
Wait. All right. So hold on. That right there is a gem. And I want everyone to understand this because Ven, this, in my opinion, this right here is what makes you even more special. It's the fact that you got that unicorn deal. And a lot of people, like a unicorn deal does happen for like, there's a lot of people out there that you can find people that hit their first lick. It was like a 20K, 30K, 40K spread. And like, I'm talking inside the first 30 days. However, they didn't get anything else after that. And they are not around today. They did not continue on the journey because they weren't stress tests for this. So I love that. Like you got an instant hit, which is freaking cool. I did not know that. And so what happens after that instant hit?
It was a straight proof of concept. I couldn't believe it happened. It was the typical wholesale. I mean, I met the buyer. I walked the house. I did the whole 9. I had people there. Just, it was like magic. It was unbelievable that it happened. And then this was in October. Then I started going hard in the grind for November, December. I joined Sub-2 in December, then January, February, March. Then April finally hit. And that was when I finally locked up another deal on a JV agreement in Atlanta. And that was finally when it happened, but it was a grind to get there. It was again, an uphill battle, emotionally challenging, mentally challenging, everything under the sun. I didn't quit because I saw everybody around me in our community succeeding. I was like, they're doing it. Every single person here is doing it. What are they doing? Because I know they're doing it. So what is it that they're doing? And all I got to do is keep on doing it until I figure it out that works for me. And that's what kept me going and my team going.
Yo, let's go. Okay. See right there. You've heard me say this, or at least I hope you've heard me say this in the past, like the campfire effect of like getting yourself around the campfire, getting yourself around people that are going to encourage you to keep going, right? Like essentially like littering your world with positive peer pressure, right? Where it's just like, I never say to compare yourself to others. Like I don't want to ever compare because comparing will stress you out. However, I do want to go and put myself around people that are succeeding, people that are achieving, people that are positive, people that are uplifting. Because when I do like on the inside start to have those moments of doubt, and I'll look and I'll see my peers and I'm just like, all right, they're succeeding. I view myself as an equal to them. So that means my turn is next. Like I just got to keep going. Like I'm not done. It's just not my turn yet. Like the dinner table is, we're going around and like the plate hasn't gotten to me yet, but the plate will eventually get to me.
It will. It 100% will. Whether it's in a day or 10 years, it will get to you. And that's how I view tattooing. I knew there was the same mentality that I did in tattooing. And because of tattooing, it prepared me for real estate because I already went through the trenches and knew what I had to do to get through it in the next one, which was real estate.
Bro, I love that. Because that's how, when you started mentioning tattooing, that's how I felt about parkour. And that's why even like I tell people real estate is my new parkour, because it's the same thing. It's like, I just know, hey, as long as I stick to this, at some point, one of two things is going to break. It's either going to be me or it's going to be this business. And I don't plan on breaking. So the business is going to break for me and open up.
Yep. And it always does. It never will not break open. It's just facts. Like you said, there's certain universal laws that take place in our world, and it's true. Consistency is key. And if you can do it long enough, it will happen.
I love that. So you get your next deal in April down in Georgia. Was it Atlanta?
Yeah, it was Atlanta, Georgia. There was a wholesaler that couldn't dispo a property, and I was able to find him a buyer, and we JV'd and did actually a daisy chain on it. And that was a big spread, surprisingly. We had no idea how good it was going to be. That turned out to be $50K ultimately, and we sold it for, we got a $30K profit. The guy that we sold it to got a $20K profit, and everybody won. Everybody ate.
Let's go. And like, I love that, because that's the power of this business, right? Like there's so many sides of the table to be on, whether it's acquiring it, whether it's dispoing it, helping people out, helping your coworkers out. Like that's a beautiful freaking thing. So
yeah,
at this
that's
point
the
now,
one thing about this. Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. So like, I love that. So at this point now, you've got 2 deals. You've got even more proof of concept. You also went through a personal winter of real estate. Like I call anytime, like when things feel like they're not happening, I'm like, all right, that's just winter time. Like the straight up winter's back. Like, all right. And you now see like, all right, this business freaking works. Like, I don't think most people get like $15,000, $30,000 checks ever. Like as one hit, like as a normal individual, most people never receive that as like a single payout for something.
Yeah, I have to agree that. And I think most people receive between, I'd say 10, 15 or less on average. Those are the typical deals that we see. But it's and that's the other thing that I think a lot of people jump into this business and don't realize, is because they see all the influencers posting their $50K checks or their $120,000 spreads and things like that. Like, oh, get rich quick scheme. They don't understand the mentality and the grind that it takes to pursue this and the reality at hand of taking 10 checks that are $1,000 a piece versus one deal that's $10,000. I would take those 10 $1,000 checks because the experiences and everything it took for me to learn to get to those points 10 times over than one check at 10 grand, because you don't learn as much with that way. And people don't view it in that sense. And it comes down to that 1% rule. 1% every day is better than, trying to skip ahead, and you can't do that.
Yep. And what's interesting? Recently, I've been finding myself saying a lot on this metaphor of like, it's like the Karate Kid with wax on, wax off with like Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah.
And like the kid just doesn't understand, like, why do you have me waxing your car? Like, I don't get it. And he's just like, you're not waxing the car. You're preparing, right? Like there's certain things. So like to your point where it's like the person's like, no, I'd just rather have that $100,000 deal. It's like, yeah, but what did that prepare you for? Now, when another deal pops up and there's a little nuance to it, you're not capable because you're lacking in the experience, you're lacking in the knowledge, you're lacking in the confidence, which I think is probably the most important part. Is like earlier today, like for instance, I had like a situation pop up with one of my deals, and I was like, in my mind, I was thinking, awesome, like now I'm about to learn how to solve this problem. Like I'm literally about to become a more capable individual. So when someone else runs into this problem, I can solve it for them as well.
That's the limitless mentality. And I admire about you immensely. And everybody that we work with has that same mentality, as you said, because when hardship hits us, we don't dwell on the negative aspect. Oh, crap, here we go again. It's like, yeah, let's solve this. I didn't know this was going to happen. What do I do now? There's just such a different flip of perspective, and it's just so gratifying and an enjoyment to be around people like that.
Dude, it makes a big difference. And it's funny, I can't remember, I can't quote it well enough. However, I picked it up from scripture. Someone shared it with me, and it basically spoke about finding joy in the middle of the storm, like finding joy in the suffering, where most of us are like, okay, when this is over, I'm going to be so freaking happy and so freaking grateful. And it's just like, look, if you can't find a way to be happy right now, you're not going to get to that moment. Like that moment won't make you happy. You have to make yourself happy in this moment. And then that's how you change the moment.
Yep. Reminds me of a quote that I heard: don't pray for easy days, pray for the strength to survive the hard days, because every day's a hard day. You're never going to be prepared if you only get easy days. The skilled sailor didn't come from, calm seas.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. So you got the 2 deals, you're in real estate now. So where do you decide to start taking it after wholesale, or did you still continue to wholesale? Like, what did it look like after that Georgia deal?
So again, it took a while to get any traction, and I still don't think I got any really solid traction wholesaling until January. So this past month, frankly. But along that journey, I decided and fell into Airbnb and rental arbitrage. Since we were struggling to get a consistency going with the wholesaling aspect and getting consistent paychecks coming in, we tried to figure out a way to get and generate passive income more consistently on a regular basis. And my partner and I started researching heavily on how to do Airbnb arbitrage, which is, working with a landlord and then subletting the apartment through you on the back end. So you never purchase the property. And we started diving heavily into that back in September. And we got our first property within a month and launched it October 1st. And then we kind of just took it from there. Yeah.
Let's go. So what I like about this, the Airbnb arbitrage is one, it's pretty creative. I think social media has been making it more and more popular. And I think people understand the concept, but one, again, like people can see what to do. Not a lot of people take action on what to do. Right? The game is out there and people weren't taking action. And I like it because it's a part of something that Robert Kiyosaki speaks about, which is control, not necessarily ownership, but control. He is a big component of, hey, as long as you can control the asset, that's all you actually ever want. Like the wealthy and the rich don't actually own anything. They control everything. So,
exactly.
The Airbnb arbitrage, why did you go down that route? Like, why did you choose that model, or what worked about it for you?
The reason we went that route was cost of entry was extremely minimalized compared to buying a property traditionally, or the way we're taught, sub 2 or seller finance. Ultimately, a lot of ways for arbitrage can actually be entered for free if you do it correctly. And that's not even a lie. That's not an exaggeration. You can actually enter it completely for free. If you find a furnished property, you don't have to furnish it. So there's a limited cost right there. And if you're able to, you can negotiate the first 1 to 3 months upfront completely free as well. So you don't have to pay a deposit or the first and last months. So it allows your business to get off the ground. Again, that comes with the skills and training and experience that I've learned and we've all been doing for the last year or two in wholesaling and real estate in general. But it's very possible. And that's the reason why I entered it, for that reason, because I could get in quick, start a listing rapidly, and I could scale it pretty rapidly as well. It just made sense.
And what I love, you just hit the nail on the head, right? Because I was going to say, right, like a lot of people, they hear this and they're like, all right, like I could do this, but recognizing, and like, I want to fill people in on this, right? Like if they were listening to your story, there's an entire year of pursuing real estate, of understanding real estate, and more so, especially what we do from the wholesaling side of talking to sellers, talking to homeowners, learning how to negotiate, learning how to pitch, learning how to bring value, and ultimately lead from a certain standpoint, right? Like come at a conversation from a particular vantage point that gives you an almost unfair advantage, because you have so much more leverage by the gaining this skill set and ability to communicate. And so I want to emphasize that, because what I'm really pointing out here is the skills are transferable when you're actually taking time to put in the effort. Like what you did in tattooing transferred over into wholesaling. What you did in wholesaling is now transferring over to what you're doing in Airbnb arbitrage.
Yep. completely. I couldn't do the Airbnb unless I did the tattooing and the wholesaling first, 100%. And like you said, and it took me a whole year to really grasp and understand how to do that, and then how to talk to a seller or a landlord in that sense to get him on the same page and show him the value that I'm providing to him. Yep.
So
completely.
I want to break this down. This might be giving away like your secret sauce, but what is like for the people that are wondering, they're like, all right, but like, I don't get it. Why would a landlord like let me rent the air? I think this is the biggest question, right? Like, because everyone looks at like, why would a landlord let me Airbnb his property? Why wouldn't he or she just Airbnb the property and get all the money? Like, I don't get it, Ven. Like, why would they let me make the extra $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month?
That's a very valid question. A lot of people ask that, and I get that all the time. Landlords want to set it and forget it. They want a passive income. Airbnb is a hospitality business, and it can be a very, very hands-on business because of that. Airbnb is not a real estate business, and a lot of people confuse the two. So when people figure that out, we're able to go to a landlord and present them the best bang for their buck, as I like to call it, because we're giving them the least amount of risk possible while allowing them to continue to do what they love, which is rent the property, and then doing exactly that. So when I come in and I talk to the landlords, I make it very clear that I'm there to partner with them and form a business relationship with them. I'm not, yes, I am the tenant as the lease, the leaser, the person that signs the lease per se, but I'm there to make their life easier, keep the property in the best possible performing condition, and give them a peace of mind that they're never going to get if they continue to just rent it traditionally. And that's the catch, and that's the pitch, and that's how you get them on board with you.
I love that, because it's leading with value. And if I could stress this to people, your lives would be a bajillion times better. Like every conversation you always had, you just like put it in your mind that the other person talking to you is literally thinking, what's in it for me? And if you think what's in it for them, that conversation will pretty much always work out for you, because you can then start to speak to their personal desires. And if you give them what they want, the law of reciprocity begins to kick in. They, by nature, want to start to work with you and start to give you what you're looking for, just by the nature of you simply do it. It's kind of like how when we reach our hand out, the other person naturally, without thinking, begins to reach their hand out to shake it. Like they can't even help it. They're trained to, they're biologically wired. So I love that that's how you're able to step into these situations. Because I literally used to think that all the time. I was like, I don't get why any landlord would do this. But now seeing the value, especially being a landlord, recognizing like, oh yeah, if I had a tenant that came to me and said, I would clean the house after every single person left. It's in my own best interest that the house looks better than even the condition you've given it to me, because that's how I'm going to make more money. And if anything happens, like I'm going to be on top of wanting to get it fixed immediately, not waiting 4 months to tell you like, oh yeah, that pipe has been dripping.
Yeah, exactly. You have to take care of it. And that's one of the biggest questions I get asked when I do arbitrage from the landlord is like, what happens if my property is destroyed or something bad happens? I'm like, I'm not going to let it, because then my business fails and then you don't get paid. My goal, as you said, is to make sure the property is in the best condition possible, better than you gave it to me. And you're never going to regret this.
Dude, I absolutely love that. So let me ask you this, right? You now are doing the Airbnb arbitrage, right? What do you view as like the future of the vision, especially because we just stepped into, for a lot of people, it still feels like the new year. Although I'm already like surprised when, holy cow, it's February.
God, it's February. It's going so fast.
It's going crazy fast. However, we just stepped into 2022 and we've got a year ahead of us, or even in 90-day increments. What do you see as the future for yourself and your business?
The future, the goals that we have for this year is at minimum 15 properties to scale in Airbnb. It's a healthy number. It's something that we can hit pretty safely, I would say. And that's a mixture of arbitrage, co-wholesaling, and or sub-2 buying them. So JVing with people, working with people, it's just whatever gets us to that number while also providing value to other people around us. That's the goal. If we succeed and do better, awesome. Never going to say no to that. But they're realistic expectations. And that's what we're really aiming at for this year specifically, to create a cash flowing business so that we can ease up on, like I said, I'm a full-time tattoo artist. I'm trying to back off on that So I have that freedom and have that peace of mind to do what I want with my family and friends and whatnot. So that's this year's goal specifically.
Man, I love that. And I agree with you. 15 is absolutely obtainable. And it's so interesting how when you set a number, like there's something magical about like setting a goal and giving a number, giving it like a measurable, like, you know, okay, cool. Like if I got to 14, I was short 2. If I got to 18, I was, you know, I beat it by 2. But like when we don't give it that number, I've had a lot of goals in the past where I didn't give it a number. And it was really hard to ever figure out if I was making progress, to see if I was there. Like to your point, it was pretty much impossible.
So it clicked for me one day when I heard somebody say, it's like telling somebody that you're going to lose or gain weight without a set goal. What are you aiming at? You're never going to get there. Like if you're not going to gain 20 pounds or lose 20 pounds, like if you're saying, I'm going to lose weight, you're never going to get there. You're never going to be motivated to get up. You're never going to be motivated to put action into it. You have nothing to shoot at. It's pointless. So you have to have numbers. The law of numbers is everything.
Dude,
realistic numbers too.
Dude, I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And what's interesting too is when you get focused on it, this year I set a goal where I said, you know what, I want to get to 16 rentals like this year. And dude, by January 7th, we were in contract to be at 16. Like we've already like passed that number on the properties that we're contracted for, that we're moving. And I was just like, holy smoly, I should have been setting like hard numbers in the past. So it's like, right now, if you've been seeing anything we're doing on social media, we're in the middle of 6-figure February. Like this February, we're earning 6 figures. Like we're going hard earning 6 figures just through wholesale.
Because you had numbers. Because you had numbers.
We got numbers. And when we have the number, it's able to give. What I've learned is the numbers, the reason they work, at least in my opinion, the reason they work is because they are so objective and it's easy for everyone to visualize the same picture, right? When I put a number and I say 100, everyone sees the same thing if I say 100. But if I say I want to build a big house, your big house might be 10 stories high. My big house might be 1 story high. Someone else's big house might be a barn. Someone else's big house might be an Airstream, right? Like, so it's just like a number just gives it such a solid, this is what we need to do.
Yeah. And it's like that saying, there's a million ways to skin a cat. As long as you have a number, you only have to do is hit that number. It doesn't matter how you get there.
Yep. So let me ask you this, right? I always like to ask people this as we start to wrap up the episodes, which is, I'm big on reading. Like I'm reading a book every single day. Matter of fact, just so everyone knows, this is cool. Like I just started reading The Secret today for the very first time. I watched that movie like years ago. A friend of mine came over and she was like, we need to watch this right now. It's like 4:00 in the morning. I'm like, what the hell am I watching? This is cool though. But I just started reading that book today. So I'm always reading a new book. And I know earlier you alluded to the fact that you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So besides that book, can you name at least 2 other books, but no more than 2, that were total paradigm shifts for you, that when you picked them up, you read them, your mind has never quite gone back to being the same since?
Easily. There's too many, honestly. I read 43 books last year. I tried reading a book a week.
Oh, hell yeah.
Dude, I read hard. I read every day, and I got into audiobooks more now. Think and Grow Rich probably was the number one book that forever changed my mind. That was like, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, yes, but Think and Grow Rich was like the Bible of mentality to me, 100% across the board. And I listened to a podcast by Bob Proctor, who studies that book to the core. And there's just an episode that anytime I'm having a down day, I'll listen to that episode and it just resets my mind. I'd say Think and Grow Rich. And then the other book that I recently read that really changed my mentality was called Designing the Mind. And it's about, it's not a known one. Not a lot of people know about it. It's called Designing the Mind.
Book, bro. Like you said, Designing the Mind.
Yep.
I love when I get a new book, man.
Designing the Mind, the Principles of Psychotexture. So it's all about cognitive reconstruction and how to practice methods, specifically how you can change your positivity and work on little things every single day to increase and just do better all across the board. That alone just rolls into everything in life, especially for entrepreneurs.
It's so important. Like I stress this to people that the same way we work out physically every single day, or if you're an athlete,
Yep.
you practice your skill every single day. Our minds are something that need to be worked on every single day.
Every day.
So I love that. And the fact that you brought up Bob Proctor, I fucking love that. I don't know if you were made aware that, last week he just passed away last Thursday.
Oh, I did not know that.
Dude, that's how I literally I got into my car last Thursday. I looked down at my phone and I saw it. I was like, somebody's messing with me. And like I just started looking everywhere and I was just like, you know what? This dude lived a great freaking life. 'Cause I remember in an interview he spoke about, kind of like when someone was asking, like, hey, what about when you passed away? He was like, dude, I'm excited for that. Are you kidding me? Like,
yeah,
like that's moving on to the next stage of this journey. Like he was like so stoked about, like, he was like, yeah, I'm not planning on leaving anytime soon, but when I do, like, there's nothing to be sad about.
Nothing at all. And that's the difference about what the lives that we live. We build our life for that point. And I feel that we're prepared for that next chapter because it's a new adventure.
Exactly.
Yeah. We don't feel like we left anything behind us. We did everything we needed to do. And now it's time for the next chapter.
Exactly. No regrets. So speaking of that, this brings me to my final question. And this is probably my favorite question. I absolutely plan on writing a book on the answers that I've received from this question. It's like literally just like a catalog of everybody's answers. And the question goes like this. Let's imagine tomorrow, man, when you wake up, you are a blank slate. You don't remember anything. You don't remember entrepreneurship. You don't remember the Airbnbs, wholesaling, tattooing, your corporate job. Like you don't remember any of it. Friends, relationships, experiences, books, blank. Right now, as you're waking up, you're not freaking out. It's not like a Saw movie. You're not scared for your life. You're just like blank. And you begin to open your eyes, come to consciousness. And as you look around, a thought begins to come to you. And this thought that comes to you, you just immediately accept it. Like, and it is just 100% true to you. There's no doubt about it. Like you're just, okay, like fully 1000% in agreement with whatever this thought is. What would you ideally like this thought to be?
Oh man, that's probably the hardest question I've ever been asked in my life because I'm so influenced by what I'm doing right now. Wow. What would that thought? That's such a vague question. I don't, my thought would, knowing me, my thought would be trying to find answers in ways that I can best work on myself so that I can provide value for those around me, truthfully. I've kind of been doing that since birth, and I'm living proof because I'm doing it now. I just kind of found my way throughout the years of my life, and I think that's what it would ultimately be again, just figuring out how to do it all over again, but from scratch.
Dude, I love that. I love that because honestly, it makes sense, right? Because if you have that as a thought, like, hey, let me just figure out how I can consistently improve as a person, as a human. Eventually, it doesn't matter what you decide to do, even with that new life, you will start to progress with it and you'll start to be able to help others.
Completely.
Yeah. I love that. By the way, I also love the fact that you took time to think. Like I always have, after I ask that question, I have like two groups. Like one is like instant shotgun answer, and the other side is like, give me a minute. I got to think about this one.
Yeah. No, I had to. I've never been asked something like that. That's a hard question. It's a really self-reflecting question.
It's one of my favorite questions to ask, man. Like that's why I'm putting that book together on it.
I like that.
I'm just gonna have to go hire a VA to go rewatch every single episode and be like, all right, don't pull those answers for me. Like,
oh my gosh.
yeah. You think at this point I would already start writing them down as I go, but like
you'd be saving yourself a lot of money if you did.
Yeah. Dude, but first off, I want to say thank you for making time to come on the show today. Seriously, like this has actually been like one of my favorite episodes right now because getting to dive into your story right now and really being able to see the journey that it took to get there and recognizing that there's like, I love when people are intentional and like I say like there's someone like active behind the eyeballs, like the lights are actually on. And you are a very intentional person, which I appreciate immensely. So being able to share your story here today, I appreciate you for that. And
Thank you.
I want to know, for people that are like, yo, this dude Ven's freaking awesome. I want to connect with him. I want to learn some Airbnb arbitrage. I want to learn what he learned about real estate. How can they connect with you?
You can connect with me on Facebook at Ven Pikarsky. If you want, I can put it in the chat, or you can add it to your podcast later. Instagram, the Tatted Investor, is where I'm at there. And yeah, those are pretty much the two best places to reach me, I would say.
Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm absolutely going to put that in the description for this episode.
Cool.
Because I have no doubt that no one will be able to spell your last name, bro.
No, not at all. It's impossible. My own dad messed it up when we were on a trip to Las Vegas one year. He spelled it wrong. It's like, Dad. How the hell?
Yeah, so I'm going to put his info down below in the description. You guys are going to be able to go click on it. Go connect with him. If you have any questions, like seriously, reach out. He is a freaking awesome dude. The way you broke down Airbnb arbitrage to us last week, I was like, holy crap. Like once I am done with my 6-figure February and we're done with like the plans I already had in play for this year, I will absolutely be leveraging the information that you shared, because it was just, for me, it was really mind-opening. So I appreciated that big time.
Of course. That's what I'm here for. More than happy to help.
Dude, 100%. So Ven, thank you so much. Everybody, if you love this episode, please make sure you give it a thumbs up, give it a like, go in, click whatever subscribe button that you're there with. Go and actually do me a favor, screenshot yourself listening to this episode and tag me, tag Ven at the Tatted Investor, and make sure that we are able to see this. This way we can communicate, or else we have no idea that you're even listening. Like I have no clue who's listening until you reach out on social media and say like, yo, that episode was fire. So on that note, I will see you all later. I appreciate you guys for listening, and tune in for the next episode.